Okay, Buccaneer fans, welcome back. We are in the 2022 NFL season. The calendar has just begun. The league year has just begun. We are back for our first episode of the 2022 season with the No Quarter Given podcast, folks. Remember us? We were here for you last year with our inaugural podcast season, and we are back again for year number 2. Yours truly, Jason Powers, along with my co-host, Peter Blake. Welcome back for year number 2, Peter Blake.
Yes, sir. Welcome back. And, welcome back to Tom Brady for his 23rd year. How about that? That's kind of changed free agency and how a lot of Bucs fans out there were feeling, right?
Absolutely. The last time we spoke to our Buccaneer fans was after the Rams divisional loss. And all the speculation was that Tom was going to retire. I think he did it a couple days later after the game that following week. So, we had the tragic. We weren't sure. You and I were discussing Blaine Gabbert, Kyle Trask, vomiting in our mouth, all that kind of good stuff.
Yikes!
But come Selection Sunday of the NCAA tournament, the only person that could upstage Selection Sunday is our guy TB12 with the announcement. He is back for another year in Tampa Bay.
Jason, where were you when it happened? Because I know where I was. I was taking a nap. I didn't think there was anything that was going to happen. In fact, if there was any news at that point, we heard that Deshaun Watson was going to be in the Bucs plans. They were going to go after him heavy. But, of course, they didn't. It's announced. Somebody says, what are you doing? Why aren't you on? I'm like, what are you talking about? Tom Brady just announced on Twitter he's coming back. I'm like, no, this is a joke, right? This is somebody's trolling. Sure enough, it was Tom Brady. I was here going live. Where were you? Were you with TJ?
I was doing a basketball NCAA selection tournament Selection Sunday podcast with our buddy TJ Reeves, who's the sideline reporter for the Buccaneers. I was helping TJ on his basketball podcast for Selection Sunday. And the last 2 minutes of the podcast, it was all breaking at that moment. He puts on a Tampa Bay Buccaneer hat, and I didn't know what he was referring to. And all of a sudden he says, Tom Brady's back.
Mm-hmm.
Right at the end of our podcast, live on the air, man.
Amazing. Just amazing. And it's changed everything. I mean, it's changed the attitude of everybody at this point. Going into free agency, you thought you were going to lose a lot of players. Look, the Bucs have had their fair share of losses. We'll get to it in a moment. But, I mean, the gets that they've had that have come back at this point have been amazing. And again, it goes back to what I call the Brady blueprint. When you take less money, you spread that money over a course of time to your team. You're able to bring back the players, unlike an Aaron Rodgers or other quarterbacks out there. We'll get to that later.
All right, let's actually. I want to get to the NFL free agency window first, and then we'll
Sure.
dial into the Bucs here in just a few minutes.
Sure.
The breaking news of today, as we're recording this. Massive trades have happened in the offseason. Quarterbacks have moved. Big-time receivers have moved. And today highlighted it with Tyreek Hill being traded from Kansas City to the Miami Dolphins for 5 draft picks and then signing a 4-year, $120 million extension. That preceded Devonte Adams going to Vegas from Green Bay for a 1 and a 2 this year, signing a huge deal with Vegas. Russell Wilson gets traded. Carson Wentz gets traded, some free agency signings. Deshaun Watson gets traded for 3 number 1s and $230 million guaranteed. Just your overall impressions of the landscape of the National Football League free agency this first couple weeks of the new league year.
Well, it's upstaged everything, right? It's upstaged Major League Baseball. We didn't have baseball there for a little while. Now it's come back. It's upstaged March Madness, and thank God it has, because sports broadcasters like myself wouldn't have anything to talk about. Let's talk about this. Tyreek Hill gets traded for 5 draft picks. Is that going to make Kansas City better? I don't think so. But again, there's a correlation here, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. Patrick Mahomes signs a big-time contract. You lose your number 1 wide receiver. Consequently, Aaron Rodgers signs a big-time contract because all we heard, and I was on his side from the very get-go, that he didn't have enough weapons. Well, the guy decides to go back. Not only that, he takes one of the biggest deals in NFL history. And guess who walks out the door? Devonte Adams. So when you sign a quarterback to a major deal, it's going to be an albatross if you will, on your salary cap, and you're going to miss out on players. And I'm not sure how good Kansas City is at this juncture. I'm not sure how good Green Bay is. In fact, I think both of those teams consequently have taken a step back. Now, Deshaun Watson, $230 million guaranteed. He better take you to the promised land, either not this year, because most likely he's not going to be suspended for the majority of it, but he better take you to the promised land here in the next couple years. I get it. Cleveland's trying to compete. That's a lot of money to put on a guy who's coming off 22 allegations. And then the other trades here, you didn't even mention Matt Ryan to the Indianapolis Colts. Does that get them over the top? He leaves Atlanta. You got Carson Wentz going to the Washington Commanders. Does that win the division for him? Lots of quarterback movement. And then Russell Wilson, once again, another big-time contract where Seattle tries to get out of it. You get picks and players. Does that make the Denver Broncos a player at this point in that division, which certainly has gotten tougher with the Chargers and, of course, the Raiders making moves this offseason?
The quarterback star power in the AFC is incredible when you go from 1 to 10. I mean, Matt Ryan is probably the 8th or 9th best quarterback in that conference now.
Yeah. I mean,
and we think the Colts can be a legitimate Super Bowl team, even with Matt Ryan.
Yeah, even with Matt Ryan, because you got a great offensive line. You got Taylor in the backfield there. You got, pretty good weapons that you think, Michael Pittman Jr., possibly pick up a wide receiver in free agency like a Julio Jones or Jarvis Landry. But everything that the Bucs wanted happened for them good. If you think about it, I mean, all the quarterbacks are basically out of the NFC besides Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers lost his number one weapon. So all the tough teams are in the AFC. They're going to beat each other's brains out. And basically the Bucs have how many teams in the NFC that they're going to have to compete with? Right now, the Bucs are looking good with all these trades in the AFC.
Stafford re-ups in Los Angeles for 4 more years. So they're going to be able to be players in the free agency market still. Give me again, some other big key moves. Von Miller goes to Buffalo. Khalil Mack traded from the Bears to the Chargers. Trubisky goes to Pittsburgh to be the quarterback. Not sure about that. Our buddy Jameis goes back to New Orleans for 2 years. So, Again, the Buccaneer path in the NFC is so much easier than it's going to be in the AFC. I'm just surprised at some of these quarterbacks, especially Deshaun Watson. He could have gone to Atlanta. He could have gone to Carolina. He chose to go to Cleveland because I think that was strictly a money play. When somebody says, here's $230 million, guaranteed, it's hard to turn that down.
Yeah, but you wonder what, the future for that organization is going to be, because we've seen these quarterbacks sign these major deals before. What happens?
Never like that.
Right.
Never $230 million guaranteed.
Right. So you better have a great capologist, Cleveland. You better win a Super Bowl here in the next couple of years. And look, that division is tough in itself. You have the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow coming off a Super Bowl appearance. Pittsburgh Steelers, we'll see. They got a team that competes every year. You got the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson. That'll probably be the next big deal there. Tough division at this juncture for Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. And I don't even think he's going to play that much this year. So lots of guaranteed money. And there was talk that, look, if Watson would have joined the Atlanta Falcons, he would have brought Leonard Fournette and possibly Jarvis Landry with them. But it just tells you that the NFC South is absolute garbage at this point. I get it. Jameis Winston re-signs with the Saints, and they always give the Bucs problems. But the Atlanta Falcons, they have Marcus Mariota, who hasn't started a game since 2019. You're going to get an opportunity, Jason Powers, to see the Falcons versus the Saints, the two 1 and 2 picks in 2015, Mariota versus Winston. And then Carolina doesn't even have a quarterback at this point. They don't want a Baker Mayfield. So who knows what's going on in that division overall? It's all advantage to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And the two quarterback names that we didn't think, with the one quarterback name we thought would be the main guy in free agency this year, or would kind of be the guy that would be the domino, Jimmy Garoppolo, still sitting out there with the 49ers. He really doesn't have a place to go. Don't be surprised if the 49ers keep him as an insurance policy, because I'm not sure they believe Trey Lance is ready.
Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be going to the Carolina Panthers. That's where he's going to go. I cannot see anything else. They freed up cap. They have Christian McCaffrey. They've got to make a bold move. They may have wanted to get Watson. Watson didn't want them. They don't want Baker Mayfield. I'm telling you, Jimmy Garoppolo with the Carolina Panthers. Does that improve them? I don't know.
Marginally.
Right. But you feel good about that division overall.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's all because of Tom Brady coming back. It has changed, once again, the NFL's landscape.
Absolutely. Let's, before we get back to we're going to get into the Bucs real deep, fans. So don't worry, hang in there for another minute or two. What's the one move that you think is the most game-changing move? To me, it's Russell Wilson going to Denver because they have the defense in place. They've got good wide receivers. They've been missing that trigger man since Peyton Manning left. And I think Russell Wilson could be a major factor in the AFC.
I agree with you, but in that division, I think the major move, I'm just going to be a little bit different. Finally, you get Derek Carr, a big-time weapon, and a Devonte Adams who, the last couple of years, 100-yard receiving seasons. Can he duplicate that? Finally, Carr's got a weapon, his college teammate. Adams always wanted to be a Raider, so we'll see how that works out. And then on top of it, in free agency, they re-signed a Max Crosby who could get after it. And then you added Chandler Jones.
Yes.
So it seems like Josh McDaniels and that whole administration is really serious about not only making the Raiders an offensive power, but also a defensive power. They could be a power in that AFC West with all those teams improving. So I like what the Raiders did in the offseason, especially with the Devonte Adams.
In two huge moves by the Chargers, Khalil Mack for a bag of potatoes, basically from the Bears, which give the Bears credit. They got rid of that salary cap. That was the number one goal with Khalil Mack. He had a lot of salary cap implications. The Chargers took all that money, and whatever draft pick you get is a bonus. And the other move, J.C. Jackson, the big-time corner from New England, they signed him to a big deal to put him on the back end with Derwin James.
Yeah, absolutely. You get those two guys in free agency. That absolutely improves your defense at this point.
They re-upped Mike Williams as well, the receiver.
Right. You re-sign a Mike Williams. So that offense is already explosive with the young quarterback and a Justin Herbert, but you improve that defense. And can you imagine Joey Bosa on one side and Khalil Mack? I mean, that's how you get after a Russell Wilson, a Derek Carr, and a Patrick Mahomes. So I like the Chargers in that division, but goodness gracious, that AFC West is going to be something to watch this year in the National Football League.
That's probably the greatest collection of quarterbacks in one division in the history of the NFL. No doubt about it.
The greatest collection of talent in the NFL right now.
Right.
That's the best division, period.
All right. You're listening to the No Quarter Given podcast. I'm Jason with Peter. Now let's dive into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, we mentioned it. Tom Brady, Selection Sunday, announces he's coming back. That completely sounds like, from what Bruce Arians and Jason Light said, that had been in the making for a couple of weeks. They had been in contact. They'd stayed in touch. We saw the clip of Tom Brady in England at the Manchester United game talking to Cristiano Ronaldo. Ronaldo made the comment, "Are you coming back?" And Brady said, yeah, kind of him and hawed about it, which led you to believe the door was definitely open. So just your thoughts of how much their offseason plans changed by Tom Brady saying he's coming back, because a lot of people thought this could have been a transition year for the Bucs with no Brady. Do you go with Kyle Trask for a year? Are you in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes? We didn't know which way the Bucs were going to go, but once Tom Brady, and the importance of that, the day he did that was it then allowed the Bucs that next 2 or 3 days in that open negotiation period to get Ryan Jensen, to get those guys in place that you thought were critical elements. And again, Ryan Jensen was the first guy. Chris Godwin gets franchise tagged, which then he gets signed to a 3-year deal. Carlton Davis comes back. Aaron Stinney's re-signed. Just your thoughts of how the dominoes fell into place once Tom Brady announced he was back.
I mean, perfectly. And it was a drastic change because we were talking about Kyle Trask and Blaine Gabbert are possibly giving up so many picks throughout the years for Deshaun Watson. And I'm not sure if the team could go through that. I'm just not sure. So it absolutely changed at that point. They picked the perfect time. And whatever the Glazers said, boy, they can recruit. That's for sure. And hats off to Jason Light for going all Motel 6 on Brady, saying, we'll leave the light on for you. We're not going to press you. I would say football relationships, we'll give you your time. We'll give you your space, much like they're doing right now with Gronk. We'll let you decide, sweetheart. And when he decided, of course, it changed everything in the Tampa Bay area. There were a lot of Bucs fans saying, you know what, it's going to be a year where they go 5-12. Right now, a lot of Bucs fans are saying 12-5 after Brady coming back. But you're absolutely right. You get Ryan Jensen, which was important. The talk was he could have had $15 to $16 million. Important signing there. You get Aaron Stinney signed before that happened. And to me, the move that is going under the radar, trading for Shaq Mason, for a 5th-round pick after Ali Marpet, which it looks like he's going to stay retired.
Right.
He is an upgrade. That offensive line is in better shape than it was last year. In fact, I think that offensive line actually got better, believe it or not.
That's a great point you brought up about Shaq Mason. Again, the Patriots, and again, we'll talk about a couple sneaky moves that we figured Alex Cappa was going to get overpaid, and he did by the Bengals. Good for Alex. He had a good career. He's going to another winning situation, so even better for Alex. It's not like he's going to the Carolina Panthers and have to wallow in mediocrity. He's going to a championship roster in Cincinnati. They've upgraded their line. Lyle Collins, big offensive line moves in Cincinnati, but good for him. Jordan Whitehead, the safety we talked about, went to the Jets. And, you know,
what's he doing? I mean, and I get it. You want to go and you want to get the money because you already got the ring, but you're going to the friggin' Jets just in the season for a reason. And we don't know that situation. We heard from Jenna Lane of ESPN that, the Bucs never offered him anything what the Jets offered. So they wanted to move on. And then on top of it, you draft Mike Edwards. And as a premium pick, you want to see if he can start. If not, then you basically are back to the drawing board with drafting. You can draft somebody in the 1st or 2nd round this year. So to
sneaky signing, Logan Ryan.
Yes.
Logan Ryan, a very cerebral safety, has history with Tom Brady with the Patriots, was getting better and better every year. He's not a superstar, but a very serviceable safety. You team him with Antoine Winfield. I think that's going to be a great match. Ball hawks, both those guys are ball hawks. Mm-hmm. That's what Todd Bowles likes in his safeties, guys that can cover, guys that are good ball skills. Jordan Whitehead didn't have great ball skills. Mike Edwards is he's up and down. Perfect number 3 safety. But I think Logan Ryan, and now there's even talk that you might see another week or two down the road, Tyrann Mathieu might be a guy that walks in the door at a discounted rate because, again, he wants to be on a championship level culture and he has familiarity with Bruce Arians.
And with the Ryan signing, it gives you versatility because not only can he play safety, but also in the slot. We know Todd Bowles likes 3 safeties on the field at the same time.
Nickel corner.
Yep, nickel corner. And again, you don't know, you're not sure about that back end. You get Carlton Davis back, but Sean Murphy-Bunting somewhat regressed last year. He's in a contract year. You had Jamel Dean.
Contract year.
Yeah, I mean, you're in that free agency year, so you have to figure it out. You have to either put up or shut up. And don't be surprised that not only Mathieu comes here, but also you look at some draft picks because Jason Light talked about this. This could be coach speak, but according to him, maybe not the 1st round, but the 2nd and 3rd round, lots of depth. We know that that position has got to be pushed if those guys don't come up in their free agency year. So we'll see how that plays out. But good signing. They wanted Logan Ryan a couple years ago. They couldn't get him. He signed with the Giants. Now they got him.
Now, again, just breaking this week on Monday, Leonard Fournette re-ups with the Bucs, 3 years, $21 million, 11 guaranteed. He had visited the Patriots over the weekend. Again, do I like paying Leonard Fournette $7 million a year? I don't love it, but again, I can live with that. Again, your boy Ronald Jones visiting Kansas City probably will sign there. He's not coming back, no doubt. No. Keyshawn Vaughn's probably the number 2 back. He's definitely under contract. You got to figure out a 3rd down back. Do you re-sign Gio Bernard? Do you draft somebody potentially? That's something to look out for. They brought back Brashard Perryman on offense. And again, to solve your number 2 or number 3 court receiver situation, not knowing what Chris Godwin, a very good signing, Russell Gage from the Atlanta Falcons, who had a couple big games against the Buccaneers in his career, a very solid number 2, number 3 receiver.
Absolutely solid, and he may have to play that 2 wide receiver position. but he's always killed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Once again, versatile. You can play him in the slot. You can play him outside. Godwin was talking in his presser the other day how he was impressed with Gage's game with the Atlanta Falcons. And I tell you right now, this rumor that's going around, and I will not put it past Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to do this, but according to Skip Bayless, Brady has tried to recruit Julio Jones. And the reason why I say you could do this if he takes less money, because you don't know how long Chris Godwin is going to play this season or how long it's going to take to get him back to 100%. We already know his injury history. We know Mike Evans' injury history. And what we don't know is if Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson, or even Jalen Darden can step up, because what we saw last year, it's not getting it. So if you could get a Julio Jones for less than $10 million to come here and try to get a ring, you do it.
No way I'm paying Julio Jones anywhere near $10 million.
No, he's not getting $10 million.
I would say $4 to $5 million at most is what you pay. And I think I think a Julio Jones signing, if he's still available, is going to be further down the road, because I think the Buccaneers want to wait till May, maybe June, to see what the progress of Chris's knee is. If they're pretty confident he's not going to be ready for the start of the regular season, then I agree with you 100%. A veteran guy, a guy like Julio, a guy like an Emmanuel Sanders that can come in and be a guy, a number 2 to complement Mike Evans and Russell Gage. I think those are kind of guys you're going to see potentially to be a June signing, a later in free agency signing, once they have a better sense of what Chris Godwin's situation is.
And you're right. And what you have right now is just guys. I mean, I love Tyler Johnson, who was coming out of Minnesota, had an unbelievable Outback Bowl, but really has not been able to develop. Scotty Miller in the Super Bowl year had some big catches. Where was he last year? Injured, ineffective. Jalen Darden, he looked like he was lost. So again, I believe if they have the opportunity, and Jones has the opportunity to come and win a ring, and because of Brady and that Brady effect that Jason Light was talking about the other day, where Brady is the ultimate cheat code, you take advantage of that cheat code. You try to go out and get a Honey Badger for less money. You try to go out there and get a Julio Jones.
But remember, they signed Brashard Perriman. They brought Perriman back on a 1-year deal. So again, a Perriman-Gage combination probably could fill in the 2 and 3 spot if Chris Godwin's not ready to go opening day.
Let me ask you something. You want to go with the Perryman and a Gage, or you want to go with the Gage and a Julio Jones? What sounds better to you?
But the best ability, though, is what? Availability. And Julio's lately, the last 3-4 years, his availability has been 5, 6, 7 games a year.
Great point. And that's the reason why you sign him, because you know that you're going to have Mike Evans. You already have your 3 top wide receivers, but you know they're going to miss some time. So Julio's not going to have to play full time. He's your 4th wide receiver. So to me, that's a luxury. And again, I would take that over what you got right now. I love Perryman as a speed, but he's a little bit ineffective. And I think
Julio's going to have more options for bigger roles with more competitive teams. The Colts, Cleveland, maybe a team like Dallas, Indianapolis. He has a relationship with Matt Ryan. I think he's going to have more of a market than have to settle for $3 million to come to be the number 4 receiver with Tom Brady.
It's a better situation, Jason Powers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady and the opportunity to win a Super Bowl, or the opportunity to go somewhere else and make more money. I get it. Everybody's chasing the money, but sometimes, and I put this out there on Facebook, it got made fun of, the Brady blueprint, where you spread that money out with your whole team instead of signing a big-time deal like Mahomes and Wilson and Dak, because you lose your number 1 wide receiver eventually. So I think the Brady effect may come into play here, but we shall see, my friend.
O.J. Howard signed with Buffalo, a 1-year deal. That's a good move for O.J. O.J. needed a change of scenery. He's going to
yes.
I'm just saying. I think he did.
Well, I mean, we didn't even know if he played last year. I mean, he's a great blocker, but it was highly ineffective also. I always thought they should have drafted a Dalvin Cook, and that's neither here nor there. Look, OJ gets an opportunity. They pair him with Dawson Knox, with Josh Allen.
Good combination.
Right, Dawson. Look, Buffalo is trying to go for it. Von Miller paying him $20 million a year. So hopefully OJ works out, but he did not look like himself last year. He's got all the potential in the world, Jason Powers, but potential is the most overly used word in sports.
Well, and to OJ's defense a little bit, He's coming off probably the most brutal injury you can have in Achilles.
Correct.
A lot of guys, I don't care how athletic you are, you're never the same after an Achilles injury. Doesn't matter who you are.
Sure.
You're never the same.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I agree. So we'll see. And when you said OJ in defense, I automatically thought of OJ Simpson there. So
yeah, again, a couple sneaky signings that I like. Aaron Stinney at guard. They're gonna plug him in at right guard. He's gonna be the right guard. And William Golston, backup, solid guy, great guy in the locker room. Going to be his 10th year with the Buccaneers. He announced today. I think he's coming back. So I think that's again. Depth on the defensive line, rotational guy. He's again great locker room guy for the organization. Wants to be here. More importantly, I'm sure they're getting him on a discount. So again, I'm going to go through a list of names. Give me some, and the one guy we've not even talked about that we're all pretty confident will be back. One, Mr. Rob Gronkowski. Your thoughts?
I agree with you. I mean, I look at Tom Brady's the starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Why wouldn't Rob Gronkowski come back? He's taking his time. You know, he's kind of making Tom sweat. He talked about this in the video last week at a barbershop. I think he's going to come back. Yes. I think anytime you have him, and look, the Bucs are going to have an opportunity also. I know we're going to get to the draft in a moment, but they're going to have, opportunity to draft a tight end who
they need to do that.
What they want a blocking tight end. And let's face it, besides a Gronkowski, Braid's not great in the blocking game. Neither was OJ. They tried to find that. You're going to be able to find that in this draft, but I think Gronkowski comes back.
All right, I'm going to give you. Let's go through a list of names of guys that are still unsigned, and give me a thumbs up or thumbs down on whether they're coming back or not. First guy I'll start with, JPP.
I think he comes back. I know that I know they want to get JTS, which is Joe Tryon, Shayanka more reps, which they should, because he's their first round pick, but he has a problem with playing inside. Jason Light talked about this during his combine presser a couple weeks ago. JPP is a gamer. If he's going to take less money, he still wants to win a ring. He'll do it here. If not, then he's not fully healthy. I trust in this Buccaneer organization to do the right thing. I think JPP comes back.
Richard Sherman.
Nah, he's a coach at this point. He's Coach Sherman at this juncture,
And Ndamukong Suh.
I think Suh is still playing at a high level, even though he's up there in age. I'm kind of concerned. When does that level kind of fall off, right? But it didn't fall off last year. Didn't he have like 6 or 6.5 sacks? He's still productive. He's still a part of that unit with William Golston, and Golston doesn't get talked about a lot. That's a good signing because they are a part of that number one or number 2 unit versus the rush. They take pride in that. And both of those hosses up front really know how to stop the run. So I like Suh to come back also. And
again, if a name to be on the lookout for if Suh doesn't come back, a guy named Akeem Hicks from the Bears, a very similar guy to Suh, interior to help Vita, because Vita Vea is going this way. He's definitely taken the mantle of dominant interior defensive lineman in the league. The double teams are coming to him. So you want to try to get a guy who can create a little pass rush. Suh can still do it. If you can't get Suh, maybe Akeem Hicks. If Suh decides not to come back to retire, a guy like Akeem Hicks might be a guy looking for a championship, a little older, looking for a championship run, could be a guy to look out for.
And I still think he could play at somewhat of a high level. He can't stay healthy, so you may be able to get him at a discounted rate. I don't have any problem with signing him now. Sign Suh and him. Load up, baby. Load up. Let's go for it. Let's go.
Well, they're going for it. You can't pay everybody, Peter Blake. I know we want to give everybody $10 million a year, but there's only so many dollars you can kick down the road with the salary cap, my man.
Hey, I need Jason Light and Mike Greenberg and whoever else is over there to budget my checking account out, because whatever they're doing, my friend, they're making magic, and I want to be a part of it. I'm no mathematician by any means. In fact, I didn't do well in college math. That's why I'm a sports broadcaster right now. Just saying. Just saying. So I'll pay everybody. Pay them all. Figure out a way.
Couple more names, and we'll get to the draft.
Yeah.
Gio Bernard.
No. And I tell you why, because I talked to somebody from Pewter Report tonight, and he believes that David Johnson is going to be on this Bucs roster somehow, some way. And you know what? I agree with him. They can get Johnson for a much cheaper deal than Bernard. I think he was disappointing last year, couldn't stay healthy. He didn't bring them necessarily what they were looking for. I like a David Johnson, and I also like the Bucs to draft somebody.
Okay. Interesting one here. Blaine Gabbert.
No. I'll tell you why. Because if you want to see what Kyle Trask has, if he is truly your quarterback of the future, I go with Kyle Trask as your backup quarterback.
Here'd be my only pushback on that is if you're going to invest all these dollars in all these guys, Brady and the fellas, God forbid something happened to Tom Brady in week 2 or week 5, and he's out a month or he's out 6 weeks. Would you rather have Kyle Trask with the inexperience, with a championship roster around him, or would you rather have a little more experience where you could say, Blaine, we need you to go 2-2 the next 4 weeks, and have confidence that he could get us to the finish line for 2 games?
It's a good point. And probably on that point, I probably would take a Blaine Gabbert. But there is a wild card out there that has been thrown out into this mix.
Yep.
What about a Baker Mayfield, who was a number 1 overall pick just a couple years ago? What if he gets cut? Or what if the Bucs are interested in trading for him? I get it, there's salary implications, but who knows? Maybe Cleveland will pay for most of that salary just to rid of him.
No.
Would you be interested in a Baker Mayfield, sort of like a Jameis Winston situation, right? Yep. Winston number 1 overall pick, goes to New Orleans, sits behind Drew Brees for a year, learns that offense, and then bam, he's somewhat of a substantial quarterback, if you will. And if you look at it, Jason Powers, the numbers don't lie. I mean, Mayfield and Winston, their numbers are very similar. We've heard about BA and the Bucs really liking him. So, if you can get him for basically nothing, that's a number 1 overall pick. I'm good with that, actually, to tell you the truth, with the Baker Mayfield. I don't know if it's going to happen. But
here's the issue with Mayfield. His 5th year, all these 5th-year quarterbacks, their contracts guaranteed. If Cleveland's not going to cut him and eat $20 million, they might trade him for a 5th-round draft pick for somebody else to take the $20 million. They're not going to eat $20 million with Baker Mayfield not on that roster, I don't think, under any circumstance. Not when you're having to pay Watson and the other guys you're trying to pay. They're not going to eat $20 million.
Remember that $230 million is only $1 million this year for Watson, and Cleveland's done some crazy things before. And if they cannot get, and if I'm a team out there and I'm looking at Cleveland, you got a big time problem at this point. You got to do something. You got to unload him eventually. Right. So if there's no trade interest, call their bluff, play chicken, let the Browns release him, take that cap hit. And if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and I'm Baker Mayfield, hey, make some progressive commercials down here with Tom Brady in it. I could see it, and I think it would be probably the best thing for his career. Just saying, I'm not the biggest Baker fan, but
if he got released outright, you know where he would be within a day or two, if not less than 24 hours? He'd be a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Over a Money Mitch Trubisky?
Yes.
Okay.
And to try to stick it to the Cleveland Browns, you don't think he wouldn't sign a discounted, 1-year deal with Pittsburgh?
Knowing Mitch do they want him? I mean, we've
sounds like Mike Tomlin's interested in Baker Mayfield. It does.
Maybe he is. Maybe he is the future. Maybe Trubisky's the future. Who knows? But I tell you right now, if I'm Baker Mayfield and I have a choice to play under the greatest quarterback of all time and learn from him and learn from a quarterback whisperer and a BA, I'm probably taking that choice. I get it. He may want to start. I'm just not sure if he's going to start anywhere this year. Carolina doesn't want him. You want to go to Seattle? That's a dump. I mean, their team right now, it's in rebuild. You want to get killed? Ask Russell Wilson about that. How did a smallish quarterback do behind that offensive line? Right. Not very good. So
I'm with you.
Okay.
All right, let's head to the draft. Yeah. Draft is late, first in May. Let's talk about some needs for the Buccaneers. I wrote down 4 positions of need, and we can prioritize what we think in what order. Offensive line, linebacker, wide receiver, defensive back. Let's prioritize them in Peter Blake's mind.
A defensive tackle. I'll tell you why, because Sue's getting up there in age at this point.
Really? Okay.
If there is a Devonte Wyatt out there from Georgia, and I heard this from BA, he was talking about it. Look, we already have a Vita Vea. We don't need a Jordan Davis from Georgia. We need a Wyatt. If there's a Wyatt out there, you look at the film. with him getting after the passer at this point, I'd like a wide to be drafted. I like them to go a defensive line at that juncture. If not, then you may go with the Zion Johnson. But honestly, to me, are you going to invest in offensive line when you just re-signed an Aaron Stinney who didn't miss a beat? You just traded for Shaq Mason. I would rather go defense at this point because I think that line is getting up there in age a little bit.
Linebacker potentially is an area of need with the Devonte David getting older. You need some, Kevin Minter. Do you like Kevin Minter? Do you like KJ Britt? I don't know what they think of those guys. Maybe you have to have a guy again. Devin White's clearly going to be a guy he's probably next up on the list of wanting to get a contract extension after this year at some point. So again, do you draft another defensive back? Because like you said, Murphy Bunting and Jamel Dean are coming up. You're not signing all those guys for long-term deals. You just can't afford to do it. Antoine Winfield's going to want some money pretty soon. So maybe you draft a corner in the first or second round. Again, offensive line. You can't ever have enough of those guys.
No, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And you could go with him or you could go with Green from Texas A&M at the guard spot. Are they versatile? Can they play multiple positions? Could you be talking about Donovan Smith maybe taking his job? Because we all know that Tristan Wirfs is probably the best offensive lineman with this unit. But we've heard Jason Light talk about it, and we know the propensity, if you will, of Jason Light going after corners. Maybe a Kaiir Elam from Florida at the cornerback situation, or maybe drafting a running back in the later rounds. I definitely think they could draft a running back. I'll give you two names at this point. Isaiah Spiller out of Texas A&M. They really like him. 6'1", 200, can catch, pass protect, and a Damian Pierce from the Florida Gators. I think those are names to watch.
That's probably a third or fourth round opportunity for the Buccaneers to fortify the running back position. In one spot, I'll say at wide receiver early. The reason I say early is there's a couple guys. If a Jamison Williams is there, knowing he probably needs a redshirt year, you could draft him late in the first round, knowing he's going to be redshirted. Basically, I think that's a guy that you could be. That's an electrifying force potentially.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I agree with you. I mean, there's some wide receivers in this draft. A Traylon Burks out of Arkansas. You have a Dodson from Penn State. You have a kid you can get in the later rounds who's a Tampa guy. And I'm trying to think of his name from North Dakota State. Christian
Watson.
Christian Watson, 6'4".
Yep.
About 200 pounds, ran a 4.3. I mean, really impressive. So they may not be done. And once again, I look at this wide receiving position. I got some problems with it. Tyler Johnson hasn't stepped up. Scotty Miller hasn't stepped up. Jalen Darden hasn't stepped up. If you don't go out and get a Julio Jones, I get it. You got 3 wide receivers, but we saw these wide receivers go down with injuries. So look, if you have an opportunity to get a pass catching threat at 27 with how deep this draft is with these pass catchers, go for it.
And a young tight end. You need a young tight end because Brady and Gronkowski are getting long in the tooth.
Yep.
You need a third guy that can be your future because, again, and by the way, congratulations to Cam Brady. Just got married over the weekend. Good for Cam.
Yes, good for Cam.
Quality selection, by the way, for Mr. Brady.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
I saw Cam and Mrs. Braid about probably a year ago riding bikes in Davis Island on a Sunday afternoon, and got to give thumbs up to Cam Braid on his selection. Good job,
she actually used to work for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yes, she did. Miss Brooke Skelly. Yep. Now Brooke Braitt. There you go.
And we got to give a shout out to our man, Gene Deckerhoff, retired from the Florida State Seminoles. The word is that he's probably going to do at least one more year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, maybe 1 or 2 years. But congratulations to Gene Deckerhoff for an outstanding career at Florida State, doing all the basketball, baseball, football for them for so many years. The voice of the Seminoles, and obviously he's the voice of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going on 30 years for you and I.
Absolutely. And I know no other voice, honestly, besides him doing Florida State football. So going to miss him. And when he retires from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it's crazy, you got Gene retiring, you got Tom Brady coming back, possibly retiring next year. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he plays until the end of time, because I like talking about it, and I think he could still win like 30 Super Bowls at this point. And then, of course, you got Big Nasty, one of the biggest Bucs fans of all time, Hall of Famer. It's his last year. So why not go out on top with a Super Bowl? And I definitely think it's possible because you look at the trend since 2014. I think Phil Yates of ESPN put this out there. The year before, when Brady loses a playoff game, guess what happens the next year, Jason Powell?
Hoisting another ring.
There you go. I'm taking it to Vegas. I'm betting this year. I should have bet when they won the Super Bowl, but I'm going to Vegas this year. I'm doing it.
And for all you wrestling fans in the state of Florida, I know you'll remember this. Back in the day, when Kevin Sullivan, you remember the venerable Kevin Sullivan with Gordon Soley. Yes. Kevin Sullivan used to say, Habuda Dean, 40 days and 40 nights. That's the length of Tom Brady's retirement, was 40 days and 40 nights before he said, I'm back, baby.
Yes, and you know what? Speaking of the wrestling industry, you lost a great one in a Scott Hall. I know
a local guy, Tampa guy.
A local guy that, had the mustache, and it's kind of like, doing the blackjack mulligan. I mean, back then when you were in Florida, you had cowboy boots on, you had the mustache, and then, of course, he made his character off of Scarface and Razor Ramon, and then turned into the real Scott Hall for the NWO, which is one of the greatest storylines of all time. You remember in '96 when he came out of the crowd, you didn't know what was going on at that point. He was Denim Dan. He wasn't wearing his Razor Ramon. He didn't even have his Razor Ramon accent. You thought it was a true invasion from WWE. And that storyline, of course, ended in Daytona Beach, which is so interesting. But
WCW, baby, Monday Nitro.
Beautiful, beautiful times, and good for him cleaning up. But passing away at 63 years old, my friend, it's just too. Life is just too short sometimes.
Yeah, he had he lived a hard life there during those years. And that's you hate to say it caught up with him, all the hard living he did during those times. And again, he was a Tampa guy. Fort Homer Hesterly Armory, right down the street from where I live, is where all that Florida Championship Wrestling action happened with Gordon Soley and such. So, rest in peace, Scott Hall.
Can you bring that back? I mean, now that's NXT. I mean, that's what it is. It was Florida. It was long ago in like the 80s. You remember when it used to come on WTOG 40?
Yes.
6, 7 o'clock. We're aging ourselves here.
Yes.
But that's when you had it. And then eventually it became, they brought it back years later, Florida Championship Wrestling. Yep. There were so many superstars that came out of that. And then it turned into, of course, what you know now is NXT, which is, it's kind of dropped off since Triple H has taken a step back. But yeah, man, just so much history here in the Tampa Bay area with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Peter Blake. Tell everybody where they can find you. We're going to probably try to do another episode as we get closer to the draft, but tell everybody where they can find you between now and then.
Yeah, Monday and Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock on the Sports Web, live on Facebook at The Hub. I Love St. Pete, and a new platform now with the legend himself, Mr. Leo Haggerty, Amped Up Sports. Like and subscribe to the Sports Web on YouTube, and do 3 things for me here on this No Quarter Given podcast. Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Have a great day, guys.
And of course, we got to give a shout out to our buddy Paul Stewart over in England, founder of buckpower.com. Definitely go to that for all your historical data. Every single day of the year, he publishes stuff. Birthdays, every Buccaneer's birthday of every obscure Buccaneer in the history of the franchise. It's somebody's Buccaneer birthday every day of the week. And Paul Stewart lets you know about it and tells you all their history of their actions. So definitely go to buckpower.com. We're part of the buckpower.com podcast network. We appreciate Paul allowing us to do our thing here. And Buck fans, we will try to have another episode for you as we get close to the draft. We will know more free agency information at that time. We'll have a better sense of who's going where and all that stuff. So definitely stay tuned. We appreciate you finding us on the No Quarter Given podcast. Definitely subscribe, rate, and review. Check out my podcast, the Powers on Sports podcast. We put out an episode almost every week, so definitely check that out. Check out Peter's stuff, and we will be back again for year number 2 next year. No Quarter Given podcast 2022, my brother.
Yes, sir.
All right, Buck fans, we'll see you next time on the No Quarter Given podcast. We'll see you around the draft. Take care.